Well, hello everyone. It is a Friday the 13th of October. I am Dale Delbridge, Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We're not going to take too much time with this, but we do have a little bit of football still, and we're getting into some of those bye-week type, mid-season type things where not every team plays every week. If we're looking at the SEC, we're not going to talk about those other conferences whatsoever, but I believe we have the Hogs play in Alabama. That may not be that much of a game. It depends on how motivated the Hogs are and how many more penalties we can get hit the Alabama side. It seems like we give half the field away to penalties. We have UT against the Texas A&M, the Aggies, and that ought to be a pretty good game. I'd like to see that. I want to give a shout out. I know it's ACC, I believe, but Tar Heels of North Carolina doing real well. I think they're 12th in the nation, rated 12th in the nation. They're going to have a game as well this weekend. I don't think they're on a bye. And we should have a little bit of football. Find something you like. It's out there. You can do it. Let's get on with our middle segment. If you like this content, please go to CallDelToSell.com. Find the tab that says on YouTube. Click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you. All right, now I have something to show you relative to a news article. I may give that a pass to keep this short, but today I had a situation come up, and I think it's worth mentioning. If you are not from here, you may have different traditions from where you came from to where you are now. But today I was leaving from the square of Murfreesboro, coming down what we call Church Street, getting to Memorial, and need to turn a left-hand turn to go out toward Cannon County, the county further over to head east, obviously. And I had a guy behind me in a truck just toot his horn when the light turned green because I did not move. And what he may not have seen, perhaps he wasn't from here, approaching from the south side of the church, coming up to the road where we both were going to turn, there was a funeral. It led with a funeral van that has funeral in bright letters on the side of it, and I think gold lights on the top, because they're not an emergency vehicle. But in the South, specifically in Tennessee, we tend to respect our people that have passed, whether we know them or not. And the tradition is, if you're driving and a funeral's coming at you, you still pull over to the side of the road and park until the funeral procession passes. And in this case, at a pretty long procession of cars, they had their tags in the window. It would be very low class for somebody to try to go through a light not being a part of the funeral. Maybe that has happened sometimes. I wouldn't put it past people, but we had a long line of cars, and they were turning right, and the van pulled out to block both lanes of traffic going east. And of course, there was no place for me to go, even with the green light, so there was no reason to toot his horn at me. But it is something that's different. It is a southern tradition. I don't know all the states that may do it. I remember someone from somewhere else tell me that while he was down there on the visit, visiting a cousin or someone, that he was really amazed. He said, I had never seen that happen before. I want to say the guy was from Michigan, but that may not be true. He said, I didn't know what was going on. All the people were pulling over to the side of the road, and people came by in the funeral. And we don't do that where we're at. Well, we do it down south. It's a tradition. I don't think any place I would have to go is as important as showing respect for the family who's lost someone who they obviously care about. They have a long line of cars. They obviously had a big family. It's the least I can do at the stage of my life to let a family grieve and not get broken up in traffic, that sort of thing. So if you're not from here and you see that, please don't get angry at the people because it's throwing your schedule. Maybe you're in a hurry yourself, but it's just something we do for the lost, the people who have gone away. Now, I've heard a different story. I pass this on as lore. I don't know if it's true. I was told that the origins of pulling to the side date back to the horse and buggy wagon days, pre-automobile, where in America, we had very, very few roads that weren't anything other than dirt roads, and so they would be sloshy and muddy oftentimes. And the wagon wheels and the horses stomping would throw mud on people. So people, when they would see a funeral coming, whether they knew them or not, the lore says that they would step back into the grass or wherever they were so they wouldn't get splashed, which is not the same as doing it out of respect for someone that we do now. But regardless of how the tradition started, it is quite common practice to just pause a little bit in your life and let the funeral procession, let everybody stick together when they go out to the graveside. So that's it. Let's get on with something a little more cheery. Let's hit our little numbers. I just don't want you to feel out of place. I don't want you to be somebody who toots at someone not knowing that what it is, not being familiar with that. All right, let's get on with the last part. Hello, I'm Dale Delbert of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, CallDelToSell. That's 1 L and Del, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. Okay, we're almost home. We're almost done. Last week, 10/6 of 23, we had 19,611 opportunities in Real Scout System. That includes the coming soons and the ones that are actually open to visit and go look at to get shown. That went up slightly over the previous period. We had 3634 in the under contract still showing. Remember, those already have someone in position 1, may have multiple backups, but they're still being shown, so there may have a financial contingency, something like that. So they might be up for grabs, they might not be. That went down a little bit over the previous period. Now for this week, Friday the 13th, for you triskaidekaphobics out there, we had 19,996 in the opportunities. So that went up a little bit over the previous period, about 300 or so, a little more than 300. And we had 3645 in the under contracts still showing. That also went up, but not significantly. The ratio, because we had the big lift in the availables, it went down 1% to 18%. Now, I did have something here I want to just read to you real quick. In our Middle Tennessee area that I'm pulling from the system tells me I broke this down at $600,001. Out of that nearly 20,000 homes that we have, 20,000 homes there, we have 5,738 of those 19,996 were actually greater than 600,000. That is what? Out of 20, about 6 out of 20, that's about 18, a little less than a third of the homes are over $600,000 that are showing in the system today. So that ought to give you a little bit of something. And we just wish that you have a peaceful and easy night. And remember, you call CallDelToSell. Maybe you're on hold right now and you want to move. Maybe you're locked in with a low rate. And a lock-in, what is a lock-in? I'll throw this in here real quickly. We often talk about people being locked in. Well, maybe you're happy with your home. You just wish it was in a different school zone to go so that your child could go to a different school or something a little closer to work. Maybe it's a beautiful home, but it just needs to be somewhere else. If the dollar values were the same, a lot of people are finding that they can manage that 2.5%, 3.5% mortgage, but they couldn't buy the same house as they would sell that one for that they're sitting in if it were somewhere else, because they get hit with that 7.66% interest that we're having. I could pull that back up for you. I'll give you 2 links. I have a news story. I'll put it in the description that you might want to read. Surprisingly enough, real estate people are begging the Fed don't raise the rates. The problem that we have is sort of self-revolving, because as people, as you and I, we have to buy gas, we have to buy shoes, we got to buy clothes, we got to buy food, we got to buy more than just a house. And we're getting hit with such inflation. And we know that over the past 3 months, we have 3 indexes we look at, indices, I guess we would call them. We have the PCE, that's the one the Fed looks at. We look at the CPI, which is close to the PCE, but not quite. They're a little different basket of good, but they're on consumer spending. And then we have the PPI, which is the producer price index, wholesale. And if we see an increase, we saw a little bit of decrease in CPI, I think, this month, but we saw an increase in the producer price. That just means that it's building into the system, and that increase is going to come through to the consumer side probably next month. They haven't raised rates. And people say, if you sell houses, how can you be for high mortgages? I'm not for high mortgages. I'm for not spending a bunch of money that causes inflation, that makes the Fed, through its monetary policy, tighten up and raise interest rates. And they're going to raise them on the T-bills, on the 10-year T-bill, and that's because the 10-year T-bill, most people, if we were to take an average, this has been a long-standing belief. I haven't looked at the numbers to justify it, but a lot of people will stay in a house 5 to 7 years. And when we were moving up, when times were good, it was toward the 5. As it gets a little not as good, it's going to go toward the 7. So the 10-year was pretty basic for judging the mortgages, because most of the mortgages, if you sell a package of 30-year mortgages, we know that not every one of them is going to go to 30 years. Probably a very few of them will go to 30 years. Few less maybe will go to 20-year, but as we get closer to that 10-year, the people are competing with mortgage-backed securities, are competing against the 10-year Treasury. The Fed doesn't raise mortgage rates. He raises the target rate, which affects the treasuries, and they compete for the securities. So mortgages, 30-year mortgages and the 10-year bond are kind of closely related, although they're not locked in at the hip. So that's where we are there. Appreciate you watching. If you see anybody and you like the content, if you like my demeanor, if you like the way I'm not one of those people that will tell you try to buy. There's a person on a radio station locally last weekend. I was listening, working in the garage, and she said, you need to buy as much house as you can possibly buy, and you need to be a little bit scared about making the payment when you buy it, because your income is going to increase and the house is going to increase, and you know it's just going to get better from there. And the problem I have with that is, maybe we do hope that houses go up in value. Historically they do, and we know that wages normally go up in value. That's true, but normally we don't have inflation that has run 10%, nearly 10%, and we don't see the other things, the cost of living expenses going in there. If you're struggling right now, it may be best to give yourself a little breathing room. If you work hard, it's nice to have enough money, maybe go out once a week, on a Friday or something like that. So I'm a little bit not quite pushing that hard to get you to buy the most expensive house we can get you bank qualified for. I want to get you in a house that you want to live in and can just take a breath. If you've ever been stressed, if somebody's ever been sick or lost a job where they were counting on overtime they don't get, that's not a good feeling. And I would rather do my best to really represent you. If you want to buy all you can buy, I'll help you with that. But I think that when someone says buy all that you can possibly afford to buy that a bank will let you get, and to be a little scared that you're not going to be able to make payments, I don't think they're being necessarily honest with you by saying your payment's going to increase just about every single year. It's going to increase with your insurance rates, and it's going to increase with your tax rates. Now I know they're technically not in your mortgage, but if you have them escrowed, your escrowed mortgage is going to go up just about every year. So I would recommend that we think about what we're going to do as a team, getting you into the house or getting you out of the one you have. So just give me a call when you need me. I'll be here. Appreciate you. Have a good weekend.